Welcome. I am so pleased to have Kim Townsend here with me today on a conversation leading during such unprecedented times. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so
be
much.
here.
I'm excited to be here and to speak with your audience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And my hope for today's discussion is just kind of a general conversation on leadership, kind of inspiring others. I think everybody needs a little pick-me-up right now, but also leading during such unprecedented times. I mean, what a historical time as a country, as leaders, and certainly in your role and leading Loretto.
Well, it is. It's really, the word unprecedented now feels like it's overused, but really that's the only word that you can use to describe it,
Yeah,
right? I mean, who anticipated 6 months ago being in the midst of a global pandemic and just the radical change that it would bring to every organization? I don't think that there's any business that has been untouched, and I don't think that there's any individual who hasn't been touched by this. So.
couldn't agree more. And I think the silver lining is we'll all be able to emerge out of this with a different lens, much
Mhm.
stronger, thinking about, one of our key stakeholders, the workforce, much differently. So, but let me
Absolutely.
introduce you to everybody because, again, I knew back in, I think it was 2014, I was telling you I was trying to figure out the year, but I knew when I crossed paths with you, it was something that was going to stick with me for the rest of my life. And I've loved the
Oh,
friendship and the relationship that we've built through the years. And I'm so proud. This is my first of a series that I'm going to do. And the first person I thought of was you. So thank you for being a part of it.
likewise, and I mean, I'm just so honored to be asked, and you know that I likewise am just so grateful for our friendship and for the sharing that we get to do on a business level and a personal level.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let me formally introduce you. For those who do not know Kim in our audience today, I'm going to give you a brief introduction. Kim Townsend is the president and the CEO of Loretto, a continuing care system located in central New York with assets in skilled nursing, housing, managed care, short-term rehabilitation, and medical adult day care services. Loretto is one of the largest employers in central New York. Prior to joining Loretto, Kim was the Associate General Counsel and Senior Director of Government Affairs for Welch Allyn, which is also located in Syracuse, New York. She's been an adjunct professor in the Whitman School of Management at Syracuse University, as well as the Syracuse University College of Law. Kim is the author of one of my favorite books, Lifecycle Leadership: How Exceptional People Make Every Day Extraordinary. And I think the other thing that is so profound about this thing is it really comes down to doing the right thing. Kim is currently a governor's appointee to the New York State Workforce Investment Board. She also serves as a board member and board leadership positions for a number of nonprofit organizations. Kim received her BS and MBA from the Whitman School of Management, her JD from Syracuse University College of Law, her MPA from the Maxwell School of Public Administration, and her doctorate in executive leadership from St. John Fisher College. She's admitted to practice by the New York State, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C. bars. But most importantly, Kim is a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 5, soon to be 6 wonderful grandchildren. And she and her husband and her rising senior, high school senior, I should note, reside in Syracuse, New York. So what an incredible background you have. And again, so glad to have you here and have this.
Thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Great. So we have an abundance of fantastic topics that I think you and I had a great time trying to whittle them down, and we're going to try to stay focused on that. But prior to doing so, just tell me how you are, how your family is, and all of those key stakeholders at Loretto that are on the front line leading through this time.
Well, I would say that, we started on this COVID journey at Loretto probably a little bit before other people, because we could see what was kind of coming. So along the last week of February, we began to take steps to, restrict visitors in our facilities, to purchase protective equipment for our employees. So we've been on this journey for several weeks now. And I have to say that it's been exhausting. It's been inspiring, and it's been challenging, and yet I could say that there are several very, very important things that we've done during this time that we're going to continue to carry with us. Operational changes and efficiencies, different approaches to how we connect our residents and participants to their families. There's been some real positives from what has been a very challenging experience, and of course there's been heartbreaking things as well.
Yeah, it is. And if there's ever a time to pause and say, what can we be doing differently? And a lot of times we talked about it, in that long-term strategic plan, but boy, it's right in front of us, and we might be trying that tomorrow, I think many times for leaders and organizations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has undoubtedly accelerated many of the things that were in our long-term strategic plan. There's things that require radical change, and in the absence of a crisis, you might not have the will to do these things,
right.
But you never can waste a good crisis, and I feel like here at Loretto we have certainly brought many, many good things to the fore that before might have not have been possible.
Yeah.
So that's a true statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And so staying with the theme of these unprecedented times, I was curious of what you feel matters most to your team right now and to the many employees that are really turning to you and to leaders, across the country and the globe to kind of manage during these unprecedented times. I think that leaders today almost have to be that grounding force and that voice. And so what do you think matters most for employees and organizations right now that leaders need to pay attention to?
Well, what I find with our employees, what matters most to them are a few things, and I believe that it was the same a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago as it is today. And that is, people in general really just want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be valued. So they want the excellent work that they do, and they want what they're going through to be seen by leaders.
Yes.
They want to have their opinions, their suggestions, their concerns heard by leaders. And likewise, they want those to be valued. And so I think that that's just core human needs. I think that from a leadership perspective, it's important to not only do those things, but, we all talk about how we care about our employees. And I think in a crisis, it's important to make those words demonstrable in our actions.
Yeah.
So some of the challenges that our employees faced in the first 3-4 weeks of coronavirus were, for example, when schools closed. Very practical problem for our employees just in terms of childcare.
Right.
And so we set up an internal exchange, a child care board where we connected our employees to child care resources in the community, but likewise we allowed them to exchange with each other because in some cases they felt more comfortable having a co-worker's college-age child home from school caring for their children than they did bringing them to a communal daycare or childcare situation. Likewise, another challenge that some of our employees had is they were working double shifts, long hours, and by the time they got to the grocery store, there's nothing on the shelves.
Right.
And so, right, very practical problem. And likewise, all the children were home from school. And in Syracuse City school districts, you could pick up food for your children, but that you can't do that if you're working.
Right.
And so we did a survey among our employees and found that over 400 employees said they had less than a day's worth of food in their homes.
Remarkable.
So we did emergency food bags. So really turning those caring words into demonstrable acts that showed that not only are we telling you we care about you, but we're showing you that we care about you. And I really think that's been a winning combination for us.
Absolutely. And there is something about that of, we hear you and, as we hear you, and here's what we're going to do about that, is we're going to kind of build a system that works not off the shelf, but as the example you gave of someone maybe more comfortable with their child being with another person that they know, that they may share different shifts or, something along those lines. So I think that's remarkable. And as leaders, I think we do have to hear, but put what we're hearing into action, because that's that trust part of it.
And that seeing part is really should result in thank you.
Yes.
Sincere and genuine, specific expression of gratitude.
Yeah.
Thank you for picking up that extra shift because your coworker couldn't be there for their shift for some reason. Thank you for going the extra mile to connect that resident to their child because we can't have visitors in the building, right? Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
2 simple words that really are priceless.
Yeah. And I'm finding great talent today is actually taking a step back. And if they're not seeing in that organizations, they're making a conscious decision that they want to join organizations, that they do feel heard, that their values do align, that they are part of all those types of things. So I think that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Sort of leads me into my next question is that, again, so much has changed over the past 4 months at high speed, speeds we couldn't even imagine. So as you're looking out to the future and you envision this new, what will the workplace look like? What do you think organizations and leaders need to be thinking about? Because it's certainly not going to be where we were before.
Well, I kept our strategic planning horizon very simple. I describe our strategic plan in 9 words. And short term, it was liquidity. Medium term, it's solvency. Long term, it's sustainability. And that's something that all of us can grasp.
Yeah.
I think in terms of what's going to look different, that goes back to what we talked about of how we're accelerating some of the things that were on our longer term strategic horizon. And so the 2 words that come to mind for me are digitalization and upskilling. So in every part of our business, we are looking for opportunities to find technological solutions for human problems. And as part of that, so for example, we have done a great job. We've done over 40,000 FaceTime or Zoom visits between our residents and their family members in the last 3 months. And so that's something we're going to continue to do. Likewise, we had a telehealth presence in one of our strategic business units, but we've now expanded that across the system. So telehealth is actually our default and preferred way to connect our residents to their healthcare providers. And so those are 2 examples of things that we would have done, we would have gotten to, but this crisis has accelerated that. That's true for hot spotting in terms of tracking coronavirus and contact tracing across our system of 10,000 people. So there's several areas where we're looking for technological solutions to human problems. And what goes along with that, of course, necessarily, is upskilling at every level of our organization.
Yeah.
And so we are looking for every person who works at Loretto to be a person who can take data, can analyze data, and can problem solve based on that. Everything from the person who's working in our food service business on the line to the administrators and vice presidents of our units.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very exciting, I think, to employees when you can show them that the plan is to continue to give them highly transferable skills that are going to make them more marketable and more useful and valuable, not only here at Loretto, but everywhere else that they might want to go.
Yeah. And you made a great comment in one of our conversations previously that, as more as the upscaling that you do and how more technical, from the technology standpoint, you can be more focused on that, more efficient. It gives your employees more time to spend with the patients, caring for them, communicating with the families. And that is tremendous, because I think sometimes there's this fear of they're driving all towards technology and analytics. They're going to take the people part away.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually saying the opposite. No, we want to devote more time. Let's get away from these tasks that are manual and slowing us down from doing what we're best at, and that's taking care of those we serve.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think a lot of times there is a fear when you hear, oh, we're automation or technology or digitalization. When you hear those phrases, you think, oh, fewer people. They're going to be, they're going to be getting rid of people, or they're going to try to replace people with computers and technology machines, whatever. And what we're saying is, no, we're fixing processes that is going to make your job more interesting, potentially, to your point, in caregiving, more meaningful and more in line with what people, if you go to nursing school or you went into a caring profession, most of the people we employ are caregivers. And this allows you to care more and do less of the more manual and tedious parts of the job.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I just wanted to certainly recognize that you guys are really on that journey, and I think at a pretty amazing pace with that, because again, we've had to. At M3, we're seeing more, in fact, I just had a call earlier today of the strategy around HR, the strategy around talent, but the strategy around leaders trying to develop their skills, whether leaders are stepping forth and saying, I need to really focus on my skills as an up-and-coming leader, or existing leaders, and or the organizations are saying we need to invest in our leaders. As a leader and leading through transitions in different organizations, in certainly, at Loretto, COVID being, just such a crisis time for you, what recommendations or thoughts would you share with up-and-coming leaders on skills that they really need to be honing in on and focusing?
Well, I think any leader of any organization, not just healthcare, has to become very comfortable with chaos, a little bit of chaos and uncertainty. There used to be a category of businesses that were described as VUCA businesses, right? Volatile, uncertain, chaotic, ambiguous. But I think all of us are really operating in VUCA environment. So I think that those skills that are really important for leaders to develop, aside from the ability to be comfortable with that and to make hard calls in the absence of all the facts. I think really those are two core skills, but I think really, the ability to be transparent in our communication, dealing with broad groups of stakeholders. I mean, your message to your employees versus, in our case, our families versus our residents versus the community, there should be an overarching, consistent message there, but the delivery of that and the emphasis of that may look a little bit different, but it always has to be organizational honesty and transparency.
Yes.
And I think that's incredibly important. And I think empathy, if you want to lead people through change, you have to understand the impact of that change on their lives.
Yeah.
And, I hear from employees, I have an open door policy. My cell phone is listed on our website, and I have employees and family members and residents call me all the time. And the number one thing they're looking for is honesty, transparency, and empathy.
Yes.
And those are just critical. Those are the soft skills that accompany those hard decision-making skills and tactical skills and decision-making.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, kind of packaged all around being authentic is what you're saying. And sometimes as leaders, we don't have the answers, and that's okay.
Right.
We're
Admit
human.
it.
Exactly. But I think a person almost is relieved to say, okay, but we're going to find out and we're going to work through this together and get back to you. So I think that's fantastic.
And there are times that somebody will ask me a question, and perhaps it relates to, a fellow employee, or perhaps it relates to a resident or family. And it's okay to say, I can't share what I know with you because of privacy, or, and likewise, I would extend the same to you. So it's okay to say, I don't know the answer, but I'll get it.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, I can't share that with you, but I do hear what your concerns are.
Absolutely. And I think leadership now today, there's so much. My passion is around strategy and HR, talent, recruiting some of the best out there. And I feel like I'm always learning on the job. But, the role of HR today as leaders and that trusted partner to CEOs is mission critical. And I think that HR was a role in a department for many years that an organization had. Now they're becoming, the word as I just used is strategy. And the talent, recruitment, retention, all of those roles, and really the trusted advisor for a CEO. That HR leader needs to know the business inside and out to be that confidential, trusted advisor. How do you see the role around that HR leadership role changing in an organization, and how leaders can be counting on that person differently if they aren't already? Many are.
So I could not agree with you more. I think the importance of the CHRO role has certainly been elevated, and probably it should have always been there, because really your chief human resource officer is the link between people in your financial outcomes and performances, right? And so I always say every problem is a people problem. If you have a strategy problem, you have a people problem. If you have a financial problem, you have a people problem. So I think that role has been elevated in stature, and that's why when we recently hired our what has been a VP of HR role, we morphed that into a chief human resources officer role. And really, I see that as part of a core team, almost like we think of G7. I think that HBR, Harvard Business Review, is the one that coined it. The CHRO should be part of G3, which is the CEO, the CFO, and your CHRO, because those are the three individuals who have the overall view of the business. And those are the people that can keep their eyes on that strategic long-range planning and broader view, while you may have other very, very capable leaders on the ground managing and operating those businesses on the day-to-day basis. But it's those three roles that have the luxury of stepping back and guiding the ship. And that's something that we certainly do here at Loretto. When there's critical issues that will have a system-wide impact, the three roles in the room are CEO, CFO, CHRO.
Fantastic. Absolutely. And you know, when you talk about the issues, the challenges, but also the successes and all the costs that are associated with that, you know,
opportunities. Assessing opportunities, right?
Absolutely.
System-wide impacts.
Yep.
Connecting the people work with the outcomes. Of course, it's a direct line.
It's a win-win. Absolutely. So, Kim, in your book, Lifecycle Leadership, there's some staggering statistics that I think, you know, are just sort of jaw-dropping about costs related to the growing concerns around the well-being of individuals, the mental health issues, and there's really no family, no organization that hasn't been touched by all of these. And you spent a lot of valuable time discussing the role as the leader and kind of navigating through these times, but also as a leader, focusing on the whole self, that, you know, as leaders, we have to focus on us to then in turn lead in these organizations and manage through, you know, many of these challenging times. And you referenced saying, you know, our societal issues are key issues that we're facing every day in our workforce. And so much of that starts with your leadership team, right? You know, and how do you handle these? Because you know, they're every day, all day, and the stakeholders are such a key part of that organization. With that said, I don't know if you want to share some of these statistics that are now impacting the workforce. And I also think that we have a role to play to perhaps help these individuals and their families at work.
Mm-hmm. So I think that those statistics, which were part of book 1, and book 2 is coming.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, Lessons in Lifecycle Leadership. That'll be out in the September-October timeframe.
Fantastic.
But I mean, a lot of those statistics now are even more stark over the last 4 months. That we've been dealing with 40 million people unemployed, 120,000 deaths from coronavirus, the cases associated with that. Actually, I was reading a statistic the other day that 44% of women surveyed from the ages of 18 to 39 are describing themselves as anxious and depressed now versus 11% a year ago. So that alone tells you right there, women in particular, but all people are feeling the stress of working full-time, sometimes remotely from home, while homeschooling multiple children, while taking care and keeping their family safe, while looking out for older members or immune-compromised members of their family. So it's just a very, very heavy burden. And I think the most important thing goes back to the first thing we discussed, is really taking a temperature of the needs of your employees and finding out what you can do as a leader, as the leader of the organization, to support them in what they're facing in their lives. Now, here with our workforce, 65% of our frontline caregivers are women of color, mostly head of household, and they're coming from those very, very impoverished zip codes, the most impoverished zip codes in the United States. So there are things that we do for our employees to support them that are appropriate to us, which would be very different than if we were a different employer. Right? So I think it's important to be in tune with the needs of your workforce and to deal with those holistically. I always feel that healthcare is a point of service business. So the care you receive as a patient is only as good as the individual who's standing in front of you delivering that care. And if that person is housing insecure or food insecure or is dealing with challenges associated with children or is caregiving multiple generations of their families, children, grandchildren, grandparents,
Right.
That's going to be very hard to bring all their resources to bear to deliver that exceptional care. So we try to be very flexible and very responsive in how we support our employees. And that's worked very well for us. A very clear example is our diaper bank. So each month we give out 13,000 free diapers to our employees for their children, and in 50% of the cases to grandparents who are raising their grandchildren.
Wow.
And so that's something for us that has been a home run, a complete home run. Everyone loves the free diaper bank program.
Yeah.
Likewise, we do free urgent care for employees and families on our main campus sites. And that's just helpful to our workforce, but I think everyone has to do what's appropriate in meeting the needs of their workforce. I read about, Google where they have yoga classes at lunch and, they have 24-hour cafeteria. I mean, that's what's appropriate in their setting, and likewise we do what's appropriate in our setting for our employees.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you think about differentiating yourself as an employer, boy, I mean, the flag's got to be waving high and proud, because people can come to work at Loretto and just know that there's an army of people that have got their arms around there and literally watching their back and taking care of them, listening and reacting to the exact needs of what you have, going home, taking care of your family, taking care of extended family, taking care of raising your grandchildren. And as if they can come home from work knowing that they can take care of their family and focus on their family. That really says a lot about the organizations that they're a part of. And so when you look at, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, we describe what we do here as the Loretto family.
Yeah.
So I always say we are not only a family to the people that we care for, but we are likewise a family to each other. And so that's something that's part of our culture and DNA, this sense that when I come to Loretto, there's an expectation that I'm part of a caring group of people who are going to help me if I need help, because we all need help at times.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm curious, with all of that said, when you're looking to hire into leadership roles in the organization, or you're looking at up and coming leaders at Loretto, what are you looking for? If someone's out there thinking, okay, what skills do I need to develop, or how do I need to show up differently and be more conscious as a leader? What are you looking for when you're sitting across the table and having a conversation with someone?
Well, I think it's always incredibly important in hiring to hire for fit, right? Fit to culture. And so for us, Loretto is a 96-year-old organization. And so fit for us goes back really to those nuns in 1926 who delivered care. We are looking for people that are caring. We have deep sense of caring, that have a sense of mission and have a purpose in their lives, right? And that purpose is around delivering care to individuals at the most vulnerable points of their life. And that was true in 1926, and that is true today. I would add on to that, that we look for people who are inclusive.
Fantastic.
We set a large table at Loretto, and we invite everyone to the table. and every voice is heard and every voice is valued. So that's critically important, that people are willing to be sitting at that big table.
Absolutely.
That they're willing to be open and of other people's views, which may be different from their own. And likewise, that they're willing to participate in those conversations, sometimes very hard conversations, but they're able to do it in a productive way.
Yeah.
But I think those are the critical elements that we look for.
Fantastic.
Here at Loretto.
And just there's something about, I use the word again, authentic, and paying attention. There's a lot of personal and professional development for leaders. And you talk about, again, that whole self. And one of the things I love is today there's so much more permission around talking about mindfulness and emotional intelligence. And, the leaders that are thriving are those that have high emotional intelligence levels, that are very open about, their authentic selves and who they are. And so you do talk a lot about that, that we can't lead well, whether it's, in our organizations or leading at home or in our communities, without investing in ourselves. So tell us a little bit more about how you do that, and how you recommend to other leaders. I think in particular for women, my joke is I always say, my tank is so far below empty that I'd be happy if I could just get up to empty, because I could be treading water some days. And so I think a lot of us feel that way.
Well, I think it was Maya Angelou, the author, who said that people will forget what you said and what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
One of my favorites quotes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think we've all worked with individuals. I know I've worked with individuals who were extremely high performers, but they left a wake of bodies behind them.
Yeah.
And that's really destructive to the culture and to the spirit of an organization. So when I speak to women leaders, and I agree with you, women, we know from a societal perspective, it's just a truth and a reality that women still bear a heavy burden of caregiving of family members. We know that there's still a very, very small percentage of women who make it into the C-suite or make it onto those, choice board positions at Fortune 500 companies. And so what I always share with people is I think women, and there was a survey that was done, I think it was by the Center for Creative Leadership, that said that women frequently receive a lot of advice of how to enhance their interpersonal skills, their communication skills. And I believe that all of those skills are critically important, but I always encourage women to do not ignore the hard skills, right? Do not ignore the hard skill of being able to follow your way around a P&L, a profit and loss statement. Do not ignore the skill of feeling comfortable with those very challenging conversations with employees around performance. Don't ignore the skill of being able to chair a board meeting and to stand toe-to-toe with leaders in the community, with politicians, with prominent board members. So you've got to have the hard skills and the soft skills. I think the challenge for women, as you noted, is because we still have a heavy load from a societal perspective around caregiving and expectations and very real barriers. I mean, the only industrialized nation that does not have high quality, affordable, universal childcare. Only industrialized country, the United States. Incredible challenge for families. And so I think that the women do tend to give and give and give until their emotional bank account is overdrawn. And it is difficult to give from an empty well, right? So I
Yeah.
always encourage women likewise, focus on hard skills, focus on soft skills, but also be very careful that you're doing things that fill your emotional bank account.
Yeah.
Whether that's your weekly book club with friends, whether that's volunteering for things that are incredibly meaningful for you, whatever that is. I think as women, we do need to focus, and everyone really needs to focus on giving themselves permission to do those things that really fill your cup and recharge your energy,
Absolutely.
particularly for leaders.
Yeah. And I think so often we just keep putting that low on the list. I'll get to that next week. I'll
Self-care.
get to that next week. And it's so true. And I love what great advice about pay attention to those hard skills and,
Sure.
and really look those challenging ones right in the face and tackle them. And I think there's something about just getting in the ring. You're going to fall
Right.
down. You're going to make mistakes, but you're going to be stronger as you work through those. But I think as women, we tend to hold back until we feel like we've aced everything because we want to be perfect. And it's okay to get in there and learn on the job, as many people do. But I think we don't give ourselves permission to do that at all.
Well, and there's been studies around that show, and these are just differences between men and women.
Yeah.
It could be societally based. Who knows what it's based on? But there have been studies that have shown that men will tend to lean into a job description. They may look at it and they may assess, I've got 30% of these skills, but you know what? I'll figure out the rest once I'm there. Right. Whereas women will look at it and even if they've got 70% of the skills, they'll focus on the 30 that they don't have, and they'll say, ooh, I'm not really quite qualified for that job. Right. So I agree with you. I think we do have to push ourselves into the ring and to take on those highly visible stretch assignments, and to take on those job duties that maybe we didn't know how to do, we don't know how to do, with a commitment to ourselves that we're going to learn it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And I think there's something about a great leader about surrounding yourself with those that maybe have strengths that you don't. And so, I think that's okay. Just jump in and just surround yourself with a diverse team that will be able to support you in areas that you want to develop that you may not have. But I think it's great to have those abilities as well. So,
well, and I always say of the people that are on my senior leadership team, every single one of the people on my senior leadership team is what I refer to as a utility player. So this is a person that they might be the CHRO, they might be my chief marketing officer, they might be my general counsel, but these are all individuals who can jump out of their role into other roles and add value. They have the willingness to do it. They have the courage to do it. And competent people are competent people. And they bring those strengths with them, that willingness to learn, the willingness to just step in and help out if they can. And so I really rely on that team. To your point, I can't have every area of expertise that this is needed by this organization. I need great people around me, and I have great people around me. And part of what makes them great is that willingness to jump in and bring their best, even to tasks and initiatives that are outside their area of expertise. And I think that that's a very, very valuable skill to have, is to be that utility player.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if I went back to my question of what would you be looking for,
Mhm.
as people are thinking, I want to grow, I want to develop, I would love to be a part of Loretto someday or M3. I think it's true. You've got to be willing to, be that utility team player that's going to back each other up, support each other, and, really go to the end of the line. I love this visual that someone gave me once of, a leader climbing a mountain. And, this person said, I want this leadership team side by side with me. We're climbing this mountain together. And sometimes you do have to turn around and pull a person up, but that's not full time.
And sometimes that person that's getting pulled up can be you, right?
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it
That's
happens
for
to all of
sure.
us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
that is for
I
sure.
think we've been so very successful in attracting and retaining high talent millennials because we're an organization that has a clear mission.
Hmm.
94% of the people in our employee engagement survey a year ago said, I know why I'm here, I know what we do, and I know why we do it.
Yeah.
So I think the reason that we've been so successful with millennials is because we tell them from the beginning, you may be starting out in our organization at one place, but your dream is to be an administrator of a skilled nursing facility. We will get you there, and we do that,
You do.
right?
You
So,
do. And you
so
want to, right? You want to see those successes. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, you used the word courage, and I think that's a word that I would put along with Kim Townsend, along with many others, of all that you've accomplished in your career. And I guess in closing, who inspires you? Because you certainly have never stopped. You kept going, whether it was one degree on top of another, from your legal, all of these fantastic things, and now leading an organization like Loretto, especially through such a tumultuous time. Who inspires you and keeps you going every day?
Well, I think I'm inspired by the people that I work with, and I'm inspired by the residents across our system. So, as I talk to residents and hear their life experiences, that's inspirational to me. As I think the two things that have been most inspirational to me through coronavirus have been our employees and the incredible lengths that they have gone to and continue to go to keep their residents safe.
Mm,
And they're dealing with, keeping their families safe, homeschooling children, working full time, managing households. But they have a myriad of things that they're dealing with, but just their love and care and concern and the lengths that they have gone to keep people safe has been incredibly inspiring to
mm,
me. And then the other thing that's been incredibly inspiring to me through all of this has just been the incredible generosity
yes.
of our community. And we have seen people that really weren't donors
Yeah.
before, who we weren't necessarily touching before, who have come forward and said, you know, 5 years ago, my mother lived on Cunningham 9, and I remember how loving and caring people
Mm,
were for her and how important that was for her in the final years of her life. And what can I do to help you? Can
fantastic.
I do an in-kind donation and pay for food for a floor? We had businesses donate face shields that they were manufacturing. That was Hillrom. We just saw incredible generosity. The Food Truck Alliance has
Mm,
been here so frequently. I can't even tell you how many times. It feels like every time I turn around, I'm writing another personal thank you note
isn't that
to the
great?
president to say thank you to your members for showing up for our employees. People are working long hours, and boy, there's nothing better than having a great home cooked meal right there for you at work. And so, I think through all of this, there's been a lot of news on, people getting stabbed because of social distancing, or people, crises between people because some people refuse to wear masks. I mean, there has been all of that noise, and that happens. That's human. But what I've really focused on and been just incredibly inspired by is just the incredible generosity of the human spirit, of people really showing up for people they don't know, may never meet, but still they're there for them. And that has just been, that's been incredibly inspiring for me as a leader. It inspires me to be a better person.
It sure does. It sure does. And I think that the generosity, like you said, is inspiring to so many, and it's contagious. And that's a good contagious. I like to say that one, let's spread more of that. Because I think in our organizations and our communities, and if we can just kind of package and preserve that, and to see the impact that it's made on individuals, their families, the organizations, I think there's going to be some incredibly positive lessons. We've talked about some of them today as we emerge out of this, and I think that we can only grow, and we can only step up, and we can only step into that ring and test those hard skills, test those hard conversations, and to learn more about ourselves as leaders. But this has been fantastic, and I think you've provided just a wealth of information and stories and examples about bringing out the best as a leader. And not only, I think some of the existing leaders needed a little energy, needed a little pick me up to say, okay, I got to keep going. And I think this was perfect. And I think those rising leaders today, and if they don't have Lifecycle Leadership, they better get it now and read it, because number 2 is coming out soon, which I'll be looking forward to. But I think it really comes back to kind of the human spirit. And I am a firm believer that we can make a difference in this world, in our communities, by working from the inside out. And that's in our organizations and our families. And you certainly have led that cause. And I'm proud to talk with you today, and to certainly call you a friend, Kim.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for this conversation. And thank you to your audience for tuning in. And I think that it's really an exciting time to be a leader.
It is.
I know that it's a hard time to be a leader, but I would encourage people, don't shy away from the mantle of leadership, because we need great people.
We do.
Our country needs great people, and our world needs great people. They need world changers and game changers. And so I would just encourage people, just as you have, to step in the ring and take that up.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you. And we'll probably circle back and have another conversation with the second book.
Great. Excellent.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.